Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and in today's video we are going to have a look at the brand new Miltech Simulations Boeing CH47D Chinook. Now, this package has been released a couple of days ago, and I would like to thank OrbX very much for sponsoring my version of the aircraft. If you're interested, you can find a link to it in the video description and in the comments below. Now, that's obviously just for statistics. I'm not getting any money for doing any of these videos. So now let's head straight into it. We do have the CH47D model simulated over here, and as you can see, that one includes the analog instrumentation, and there is also an electronic flight pack included over here where you can control a couple of the options, like for example you can include a handheld GPS that you can find over here. In future versions it is also planned to include a GTN 750 option in the airplane, but that is not available in the version that I have got just yet. So, more on that later on. For now, let's go ahead and start with where we are and what we're about to do. We're at the airfield of Bückeburg, which is the International Helicopter Training Center of the German Army, formerly known as German Army Aviation Corps School, or Heeresfliegerwaffenschule in German. Now, on this airfield, the German Army is training on the EC-135, the Airbus H-135, Bell 206 and NH-90 helicopters, and since Germany is on the brink of buying Chinooks, they will probably also be training on those over there as well. Likewise, there is a beautiful scenery available from Medevac 71 on flightsim.to, which I can very much recommend you to check out. That one not only includes the training airfield of Bückeburg, but also comes with 14 different training sites that you can approach in the vicinity of about 14 miles around the field. Now, it is worth pointing out at this point that the CH47 package does not only come with the airplane itself, but it also includes several different sceneries which are very nice for flying the Chinook, amongst others RAF Odiam, I do hope I pronounced that correctly, which is home of 3 Chinook squadrons in the Royal Air Force, Bryan Airfield, which is home to the Army Alaska Task Force, and a couple more. Now, there are so many different videos available of these and of the missions that are also included already in the package that I decided we're going to go for something different, and we are going to create our own over here for this review. Alright, so with all of that said, let's go ahead and actually have a look at what we got over here. So this is what the Chinook looks like in the Microsoft Flight Simulator, and this one is simulated in the D version, which is a little bit of an older one, but nonetheless still a beautiful looking model that we can see over here. If you go close up, we can see some nice texturing work done here as well, and some nice details. Nonetheless, the frame rate I'm getting out of this is actually very, very good, and I do hope that that shows in the video as well. Now, just to have a look at the details that we can find on the airframe over here, which we can very nicely see on the engines here, and if we just have a look up at the actual rotors, that is what the details look like over here. So that's a very quick look around our Chinook helicopter. Very distinct shape over here, and very good looking model in my opinion. Alright, so with that said, let's now head right inside, and we're going to have a look at the cockpit as well. So first things first here, that is a rather huge iPad, so we can luckily get rid of that rather quickly. And just bring it back, get rid of it through the click spot on the suction mount over here. Alright, so this is what the cockpit of our Chinook looks like. As you can see, loads of switches here, but don't worry, it really looks more complicated than it is. Now, you know that I'm not the biggest helicopter expert in the world, but it took me about an hour or so until I could get the airplane going. There is a manual available from the developer, which is kept in a rather basic way on their website, which you can easily find over the developer's product pages, and I can very much recommend you to check that out for more information and a tutorial on how to fly the airplane. But as I mentioned, it is held in a rather basic way, so a bit of the stuff we still gotta come up with on our own. Now, quick close-up look here at the panel. That is what it looks like. In my opinion, beautifully modeled. Quite a bit of dirt textures here as well. You can nicely see the strain on the plane that it had on its entire lifespan here. But overall, beautiful modeling in 4K textures. Alright, so with that now checked out, how about we just go and have a look at the cabin, which is really worth mentioning as well. So this is what it looks like. Loads of first aid packages, as you can see, and loads of doctor's kits here. But just have a look at the detailing on the rear part over here on the cargo ramp, which is looking really, really nicely. They've done an awesome job capturing the feel of that aircraft. Now, the best thing though is all the loadout options that we do have available. I'm going to show you a couple of them over here and maybe show you some of the details as well. So go over here, first of all, doors, let's go ahead. We can open the front side door in two different parts over here. Like you can open the upper part of the door, and then you can separately open the lower part of the door as well, like that. Likewise, on the other end side, we got the hook at the bottom, and then obviously we got the ramp in the back, and we're going to open this one completely now, and just run over to the back in the hopes of catching something. Now, something that I do hope to see for a future update is to get a couple of click spots here in the back, showing us some of the capabilities to open and close the door right from back here, so that we don't have to do it from our electronic flight pack all the time. That's something that I do hope to see with a future update. But as you can see, looking pretty good over here already. Alright, so now that we know how to open the cargo door, let's have a look at what we can actually load in the plane. And it is worth noting that loading it not only loads it visually, but also shows us the respective details. Alright, so let's open the top and the ramp on the bottom there. Okay. So that much about it. Then let's go ahead with the loadout. So here's what we have available, and we have both internal and external loads available, and the external ones later on are going to be especially interesting. So we're going to start with a couple internal ones, so we can load a Humvee over here, which is looking pretty impressive in that chopper. And there is not a lot of space left on the sides there, but some very nice detailing here that we can see, and also nice to see that they do fold up the seats in order to get that Humvee in. Now, the Humvee is not the only thing we can load. We can also go for some pallets, which looks like this. As you can see, well, that's about what it looks like. And then we can go ahead with a little bit more. So another alternative here is to load troops. And this is what it looks like when we got troops on board. Then we can go for a medevac and just look away if you're sensitive for a moment, because they do model some wounds on the soldiers in there. So now you can look again. And finally we got the option for a boat as well, which is quite handy to drop over some waters. Alright, so talk about dropping. At the moment it is not possible to, let's say, realistically drop the load. Like with the Transall, we got some really nice dropping animations. Unfortunately, nothing the likes in the Chinook just yet. Hopefully that's going to come with a future update. But for now, this is what we got. So that much about the internal loads. We're going to start with some troops today. So we're going to make it a twofold mission. We're going to start bringing some troops to an exercise area that's included in the scenery, and then we are going to pick up some cargo and fly that back over here. Alright, so that much about our loadout. So let's now have a look at some of the other EFB options. We got a map on the top, which however is only useful for very close-up things, because As you can see, it doesn't include a lot of detail here. And you can turn it into a satellite style map, but that's about it. No airport displays or anything. If they included Navigraph support for that in the future, that would be really tremendous. So that's the load page, we're aware of that now. Then we've got our fuel page over here. Then we got the mission page, and this is something really cool over here. So you can see they've got several different missions available, including even some military exercises. Now, those have been covered in a plethora of other YouTube videos, so I just didn't want to create another video on that very same topic. But if you just go for, if you just go out on YouTube, search for those missions, you're gonna find a lot of them. For example, British AFG just released a video with one of those missions, and I can really tell you that they are a lot of fun. Alright, so next up we got the door page, which you are aware of already. So let's go ahead and close up over here, and then we'll get going in a moment. We got the config page, which I showed you in the beginning. Handheld GPS just adds that standard GPS unit down here. In the future there will be an update including a GTN 750 as well, but that's not available just yet. And finally on the info page we just got the standard disclaimer. Alright, and that much about the electronic flight bag. So let's get rid of that for now, and then we are going to start setting up our plane. So the manual is available on the developer's website and looks quite nice. It's a website. There is no PDF version as of the time of this recording. So it is a rather nice manual, even though it is rather basic at the moment as well. But the most important stuff is there, so I do suggest that we are going to start up with our panel tracks right now. Starting on the overhead panel, basically we just make sure that everything is off, and the default panel set actually does that pretty well, so for that reason you don't need to worry too much about all the stuff over here. So we can go straight into the power up and startup checks. So we're gonna switch the battery on, do a quick caution light test down here, which is looking good, and then we can start our APU. So I couldn't find any APU indications yet in this aircraft, so we just gotta wait for a short moment until the APU start switch jumps back into the run position, and that's basically when the APU startup is completed. Now this video does not intend to be a tutorial of any kind, it's just me figuring out how to fly this. Alright, so APU power is now available to the plane, so next up we're gonna switch on the 2 hydraulic transfer pumps, make sure that the parking brake is set down here. Then we can move up and turn on the FADEC backup power, turn the EAPS fan switches to on, and finally we're going to signal to the troops that we're about to start. So we're going to sound the alarm for 10 seconds, and with that the checks are basically completed already. Alright, so beacon lights are coming on. Then, fuel pumps on, cross feed open. Yes, you actually fly this one with the cross feed open. Not 100% sure why, but that is how the procedure looks like. Alright, so engine 1 start. So we're looking at an N1 of approximately 10%, and then we can turn the starter back off already. And proceed with our engine number 2 start. Well, technically speaking, according to the manual, when the N1 reaches 50%, but we'll get there, huh? Right, so here we go. 10% is reached. That is self-sustaining already. Starter, oopsie, starter coming off. Alright, and that is engine number 1 running up. %, engine 2 start. Right, number 1 is running up all the way, perfect, and number 2 is coming as well. So 10%, and here we go. Number 2 is igniting. Starter goes off. Let's monitor the engine running up. And here we go at 50%. Very good. Okay, so condition levers going into flight. The engine generators are coming on. APU generator off and APU shutdown. And that's it already. So pre-taxi procedure then. Gonna turn on all the fuel pumps. Also gonna turn on the pitot heat already. Now I'm gonna leave the rest of the internal lights off over here. And what I found a little bit strange is you've got these EAPS door switches over there, and you will get an EAPS fail warning if they are turned off, but the manual doesn't tell me to open those. But as you can see, when I open them, the caution light goes away, so really not 100% sure on that, if it's a fault in the manual or if you're supposed to fly with a caution light on, but I can tell you that much. No, you're not supposed to fly with a caution light on. That'd be strange. In any case, let's go ahead with the rest of our instruments, because we do have quite a lot over here to actually power up. Alright, steering control goes into the steer mode, and then we can make sure that we actually listen to all the comms. Like, here we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into our nav radios real quick. So we're gonna do that down here, and we're gonna start with the transponder. So let's say, well, just gonna need some squawk over here. I believe 7001 is the default military one in Germany. Not 100% sure though. Alright, down here let's go onto the flight plan. So we're going to depart from Echo Tango Bravo. Isn't it? No? Okay. Let's check real quick. Echo Tango Hotel Bravo. Okay. So, Echo Tango Hotel Bravo. That's it. Birkeburg Army Airfield. And we are initially going to fly to Hotel Bravo 09, which is going to be our first exercise spot where we are going to drop our troops. Alright, and thereafter we are going to go back to Echo Tango Hotel Bravo, but we'll program that when the time has come. Alright, so that is our setup completed. That instrument down here, I just couldn't find out how to turn that on. And it's not mentioned in the manual at all, so I do suppose might just not be modeled. As you can see, nothing of that does anything. Alright, cool. So, transponder is set to normal already, and channel A is selected, and that should be about it. Alright, cool. So with that, let's make sure we got the correct QNH set, 1015, and we'll select GPS on our HSI. So, quick tour of the HSI there. That needle doesn't do much. That little yellow triangle there, that is what's pointing you to where you're supposed to go. So what we can do is we can obviously just switch that needle to the triangle, but it's still not necessarily going to show you much. You can see the nav flag is actually on, but up here you got the range, and that triangle shows you where to go. So that is basically all that we need. Alright, cool. So parking brake is coming off. My Toby eye tracker is coming on, because you really fly those helicopters with all hands on. And with that, I'd say let's go for it. Is there any windsock anywhere nearby? Suppose there's not, is there? Alright, well, in that case, let's go without. So, the Chinook is a helicopter on wheels, so you can actually taxi it like a standard airplane. And there's a windsock, so we are going into the right direction here. As I mentioned, you taxi it like a standard airplane, and that is really what we do here. Only when you take off, that is where you turn the steering into the lock position, and then you can take off like a normal helicopter. But as you can see, it's pretty easy to taxi. You just gotta be sure that you don't add too much power, which causes it to lift the aft wheels rather easily. And when that happens, obviously it becomes a little bit more difficult to actually control. But like this, it works very, very nicely. And taxiing it works like a charm. My general impression on the taxi model here is that they did have some very good pilot's input. And that really shows. That really shows. It's easy to taxi, but it's also easy to hover. So if we just want to take it up into a hover, even though that is not normally done for taxiing, let's just do it for the sake of demonstration. Here we go. Pretty easy to fly, but you do need the hands on the controls. So I got the left hand on my Thrustmaster Airbus stick here, the right hand on my Honeycomb Bravo, and the feet on the pedals. So for that reason I am using my eye tracker here, because I have assigned my head switch on the Thrustmaster Airbus stick to the trim commands, which are rather important for when you get to fly this. But we'll talk about that in a few moments when we actually take it flying. Alright, so the hover, here's what it looks like. Should probably have taken it up a little bit higher, but... Alright, and that happens when you go inside. Alright, so let's put it back on the ground like you're supposed to. Alright, let's add a little bit of wheel brakes here. As you can see, nicely controllable, just like an airplane. So, reaching the holding point, couple of things for us to do. So we are going to switch on the automatic flight system on both. We are going to turn on the transponder and the TARA. And we are not going to switch the steering controls to lock just yet, because we still got to do the liner. Alright, so adding in a little bit of power. And yes, I do apologize to all the helicopter fans out there talking about power instead of collective and so on. That's just... I'm a fixed wing pilot at heart, as much fun as it is to fly rotary wings from time to time. So if I'm using the wrong terminology there, I do like to apologize for that. Alright, so lining up, and we are clear on the left and clear on the right. Excellent. Okay, so let's do the last part of the lineup, then we're going to look at the steering, and that's going to be our signal that we can go. Alright, steering's locked out, we don't have any cautions anymore. I would say with that, we are good to go. Now, before we take off for this, just a very quick word here, that I am not an expert on how helicopters fly. Indeed, I don't know much about it at all. So, all my comments are just based on what I would expect how they fly. But, if you're a helicopter pilot and you know better, please do put it in the comments below. Alright, so ready to go? Take off. Adding power slowly. When you just slam full forward, you get that caution light there about max continuous power being set. So I don't want that. So I've just reduced my power slightly below that. As you can see, flies really nicely. Windsock shows the wind is nicely down the runway as well, so easy going for us. It accelerates really nicely, and just have a look at that rate of climb down there. Almost 2,000 feet a minute. That's really beautiful. Alright, so we don't want to overfly the city, so let's make it a turn out to the right over here. 150 knots, easy going. I'm going to climb up to 2,500 feet here, provided that that's not going to interfere with the clouds, which I have a feeling it will, so tell you what, let's stay a little bit lower. Let's stay at about 2,000. So about like 5 degrees pitch down with the power set so that you maintain altitude. seems to work pretty well for me in order to achieve a nice 150 knots of his speed. Alright, so everything clear over here. Looks like we do stay beneath the clouds like this, so that's just about perfect. The performance of the Chinook is really great. It does fly absolutely awesome. However, you do need to trim it every now and then. But once it is trimmed out, it flies really nicely. So I've pretty much set my controls now, waiting for things to stabilize, for the speed to stabilize, etc. And now that everything is stable, let me go completely off the controls. Now my hands are completely off. You can see, flies pretty nicely once it's trimmed out. Alright, so we're gonna stay down low over here. And we're gonna make our way towards our first exercise point. Just make sure that we don't overfly the cities. Germans are really not big fans of noise. And just have a look at our speed down here. 165 knots. 170 is the limit. So you can see this one can go really fast. Alright, let's now head towards the first exercise area. And what we're going to do over there is we've got a rather tight landing spot, and we are going to drop our troops down there. Once our troops are out, we are going to climb up to a higher altitude and have a little bit of fun exploring the capabilities of the flight model here. Right, that's our outer marker. Happy to pass over that. As I mentioned, you will find yourself trimming quite a bit in this, but once it is trimmed out, it flies really beautifully. Alright, so let's go ahead, start a bit of a descent there. Gonna pull some of the power. Got about 2 miles to run to our exercise point, and we are going to find that straight in the forested area down here, so that's going to be a first challenge landing down there. So you can start to see something coming up over there, and this is where we're going to land. So let's make it a right hand downwind. So this is our spot. Nice maneuvering here. I bet the troops are gonna disagree. They got the guns, so we're gonna listen to them. Alright, and this is where we want to put it down. A little bit of wind in this scenario. If I'm totally fair, I did do a little bit of practice here before I started recording the video, but all of that was in wind-calm situations. Alright, this is where we're gonna go down. Okay, that was a bit harder than I thought, but parking brake is set, so let's go ahead and unload our troops. Alright then, open those doors please, thank you. And we are going to keep those engines running and say bye-bye to our cargo. And now that they're out, that's probably going to be our time to go ahead and have a little bit fun flying. Okay, so Here we go, the ramp is closing, and once it's closed, it's gonna be our time. We're gonna go on top of the clouds. The service ceiling is flight level 200. Probably not gonna take it all the way up there, but you will be surprised at some of the performance that the Chinook can achieve. Alright, so let's go for it. And here we are. Alright, let's find a little hole in those clouds and just have a look at that rate of climb down here. Isn't that beautiful? 3,000 feet a minute. Now let's find ourselves a hole. So, heating is all turned on. Beautiful. And then we're going to explore a couple of the possibilities of this flight model. So, 140 knots while climbing at almost 3,000 feet a minute. That's quite a beautiful performance for a helicopter, isn't it? Let's have a quick look from the outside here as well. Because it just looks gorgeous. It just looks really, really gorgeous. Okay then, right back inside, we're gonna climb on top of the clouds here, and then we'll have a little bit of fun with the flight performance. Okay, so a couple of words here on actually flying the Chinook. You probably don't see it that well in the video. I do try to keep the cyclic in the view for most of the time, but on some occasions you just can't really see it that well. So I am pretty much trimming it all the time. Whenever I'm changing the state of the flight, I am also applying a little bit of trim here. Like right now, apply a little bit of right-hand trim. Might need a little bit of left-hand trim in a few moments when I change the power and so on. So that is basically how the Chinook is flown. But when those buttons are assigned to your stick, then it flies really, really well. So as you can see, climb performance is really good there. Few words on reading the altimeter though, because if we do have a look at that, this might easily look like we're in 16,000 now, but don't be fooled. So until the 1 is really in the middle, we are not yet in 10,000, so we're about 7,800 now, or 7,800 now, even though it looks like 178, but that'd be too good to be true, to be honest. But honestly, that climb performance is still looking pretty good overall. We're gonna go up to level 100, and then we'll experiment a little bit with the flight model and what we can do with it and what not. As you can see though, it's able to maintain a lovely airspeed here in a good climb. It's an unpressurized cabin, so the rate of climb we see here is the rate of climb that we feel in our ears. So you better make sure that you don't have a cold while flying with me in this one. As you can see, 125 knots, nice 1,500 feet a minute, something like that. So climb performance is actually pretty good, especially for a helicopter. And when it's trimmed out, you can see it's flying really nicely as well. My hands are completely off the controls right now, and it's trimmed, doing a superb job here. 1,000 feet a minute now, at about 130 knots. And I do have a feeling it's very slightly accelerating. Okay, so I do hope that we will eventually get the better GPS option, but for now, let's just go ahead and do a direct to waypoint Echo Delta Delta Zulu, which is going to be where we are going to pick up a little bit of cargo in a few moments. Basically right above it at the moment, but let's first go ahead and check a little bit of that flight model. So we are just about reaching level 100 over here. Going to level off over here, and once we are level, let's see what we can achieve. So leveling off 10,000. My power is almost at the maximum. I just pulled it back far enough that we don't get the warning light here anymore. So this is what it looks like when I add full power, get the engine maximum continuous power warning over there, and I just pulled it back far enough that we don't get that warning anymore. And that is how I'm gonna fly this. Alright, shooting up in the sky once again. Let's go ahead and have it accelerate now, and release that parking brake. Right, so 15 degrees pitch down, slight rate of descent. Let's start accelerating. Want to bring it back to 10,000 and level it off over there. Probably looking at something about 160 knots of indicated airspeed once we're in a stable and level flight, which is going to equate to something about 180 true airspeed or so. Right, so here we are. Now, let's trim it out. Full power, straight flight. As you can see, wonderful. Just wonderful. And yeah, 155. That's good enough for me. Okay, so now that we've explored a little bit of the general flight dynamics, let's go ahead and do a little bit of left and right. So this is going to be only cyclic without rudder input now. 30 degrees onto the right. Need a little bit of aft stick input there in order to maintain our altitude. Quite similar to a standard aeroplane actually. And now let's do the same to the left. This is all without rudder at the moment. And it does show that tendency to start a climb while we do that, but when you actively control it, flies pretty nicely during these maneuvers. Now let's add a little bit of pedal input in there. And as you can see, when we do a right hand input there with the pedals as well, flies really beautifully. In my opinion, a very well tuned flight model. Let's go to the left now. In my opinion, a really nicely tuned flight model, but as I mentioned, I don't have helicopter experience in the real world, so I can't tell you if it is a realistic flight model. All I can tell you is that it feels really nicely flying. Now, let's go ahead and find our way to the airfield that we're looking for. So, I'm going to reduce power just a tiny bit, and here comes something that I do find a bit interesting. And that is, if I just bring the power back up one more time, so this is the power back in now. If we have a look at our engine instruments, for some reason I'm getting really low torque and I'm getting really low temperatures, while the N1 is actually rather high. So, not sure if that is correct. I would expect probably not, because we're at a rather high power setting. I would expect something in the green arc probably for the temperatures, but as you can see, that is what we're getting out of the Chinook at the moment. So that does look a little bit weird to me. Not 100% sure of what's going on there and why. Alright, so that much about it. Let's go ahead now and start our descent. So I'm pulling a little bit of power, and you will see that it does descend really well. Really well. So maintaining speed 150, and my power levers on my control column right now are probably at about 50%, a little bit more maybe. As you can see, the vertical speed indication is stuck at the 3000 mark, which is the lowest it can indicate. So as you can see, a really nice rate of descent that we're getting out of it. Let's go ahead and set our QNH then, 1015, and that's set on both sides, okay. What is nice as well, since it's a military aircraft, the radio altimeter works when even above 2500. So radio altimeter works all the way up really. Not sure if the real one would. Like on most military fast jets, it seems to quit at about 5,000 feet. While on Airline it's 2,500 feet obviously. But as you can see, it does work all the way up. And this is going to become very interesting in a few moments when we reach our next airfield. So let's make another right-hand turn over here, and we are going to go for a bit steeper bank now. Let's do 45. This is what it looks like, this is what it flies. As you can see, really nice. really well. Very easily controllable. Not sure if that is how a real Chinook would fly. As I mentioned, I don't have experience on one, but all I can say is that the model in the simulator feels really good and feels like a lot of fun to fly. Oh, and don't let yourself be fooled by looking at the ADI. This looks like really extreme, but look at it from the outside, then I don't know, in my opinion it seems fine. Right, so we gotta go over here, 6 miles on a track of 050. Well, let's go ahead and do that. So right and turn, track 050, speed is now at the maximum. 165, we could do 170, but really don't want to. Alrighty, so a bit more power. Level off in 2000. And then we're gonna keep that on our way over to the target area. 4 miles to run. Not 100% sure. We're looking at a grass field, so that could literally be anything. But well, I do have a feeling it's on the opposite side of the ridge that we see in front of us. So let's just bring it over there and see what we're gonna get. Next up in our program then is going to be cargo loading. And with that I mean cargo on the outside. Now this is a feature that I do really appreciate. You're able to put that winch down and grab some cargo that you can find on the ground. And I will show you what kind of cargo that is in a few moments. I do have a feeling that our destination, by the way, is that field over here. Something like that. Let's fly there, have a look over it. And once we've done that, we're gonna pick our landing spot. Right, DME reads 1. Yeah, down here. That's it. That's a glider airfield, isn't it? Oh yeah, there's a couple of gliders down there. Yes, this is it. This is what we're looking at. Alright, so eye tracker on. Let's get that speed out and we'll make a right-hand pattern straight in. As you can see, this is quite some awesome flight performance that we're getting out of it. Not 100% sure if you're supposed to fly it like that. You're probably not, at least I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, so let's start a shallow final turn. Still doing 100 knots. So let's change that. And here we go. Okay, let's make a couple meters over the main hangars. And then we're gonna put it down somewhere over here. Alright, this looks good to me. We'll just take the open field. And here we are. Okay, so now let's explore something really nice, and that is over here in the EFB. So I've shown you the internal loads. Let's now go for external. And when we go for external, you can see that the hoist on sling indication comes active over here. And you can see that once again we've got several different paths that we can go for. For example, we can start with a Humvee, and when you click the button over here, then it spawns your cargo in an area adjacent to you. So you can see over here is our Humvee that we can pick up. But there's also different kinds of cargo, like for example you can pick up a UH-60 airframe over here. Now, if you take a close look, you will see that the airframe doesn't have actual rotors attached to it. So this might, for example, serve for a search and rescue mission that you can pick up over there. Pretty nice. So, other kinds of cargo that we can spawn is a boat. Again, picking one up from an amphibious mission. Then you've got a bucket, and that one is actually for firefighting operations. And for that you actually got a mission where you can do actual firefighting, so pretty cool. Now, going up from there, next up we got a UAV. Have a look at that. That's actually a container for remote control of an unmanned area vehicle. Pretty nice to be able to fly around these things. And finally, we got a couple of nets. As you can see, that's just a couple of general cargo nets where we can transport general cargo. So we got to decide for one of them. And I think I'm gonna go for the UAV container today. Now, it tells us a few things on here that are worth noting. And we're gonna start with that red indication that we have right at the top there. And this tells us we need to switch the hook to the tandem mode. We can do that on the overhead panel up here, and here you've got the hook selector. I'm gonna switch that one to tandem, and that means we're gonna use both the front and the aft hook in order to carry our load. Now, depending on the load that you may carry, for example, if you go for the UH60, it tells you that it wants the hook in the middle position, so like this one over here. And then the red text goes away. So like that you can decide on what you want to take. So we need the tandem mode, so let's go for that. And here we go. Now, with that selected, next up what we got here is our height indication. You can see in the red one we're obviously too low, can't pick up our cargo. In the green one, that's the optimal band, so between 15 and 45 feet, and this changes depending on the cargo that you want to take, is where we can pick it up, and the optimal height is going to be 30 feet. Now, above that, well, you can see it turns amber. Now, you also got that little indication on the left side over here, and this is what comes in really handy if you are about to pick up your cargo and you don't have an eye tracker, because this shows the location of your cargo, and this in the middle basically is your aircraft position. So basically you're just going to maneuver the dot into the green arc and be inside of that altitude band there for a continuous 5 seconds, and then they're gonna hook the cargo up. Now, to make things a little bit more interesting, it is recommendable to learn those values by heart that you need over here. So we remember 30 feet is our optimum height, and we need a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 45. Like that, let's get rid of the tablet, and we are going to go straight for picking up our UAV container. This is quite exciting. Okay, so park and brake released. Okay, and here we go. So, I told you earlier that the radio altimeter indication is pretty handy, and this is exactly why. Here's your altitude in feet, and we're gonna bring this all the way up to 30. Alright, so we're at 30 feet now, overshooting a bit. And now we've got to position ourselves right on top of the container. Now this is where things get interesting now, because this is where your flying skills are really going to be of interest, especially when you do this without the aid of the tablet. So let's see if we can. Oh, alright, we're in 35 feet, and we're going to position ourselves right over the container. Might have gotten too fast there. Let's try, let's hover here for a moment. 30 feet. When they attach your load, you are going to feel it. So, unless you really feel that something starts dragging you down, you can be pretty sure that they have not attached your cargo yet. Alright, so I'm really not 100% sure if it's been attached yet. Doesn't feel like it for sure. If you want to cheat, you can always just bring up the EFB and... okay, here we go. So the hoist or the sling actually broke. Okay, not sure why, but in that case, we are just going to go a little bit to the side. Gonna land over here. And then just select some new cargo. Okay, so we're gonna land it over here. Alright, so let's try that one more time. Interesting, I've never had a break before. Alright, so here we are one more time. Let's try that again. Now, I'm gonna show you with the... no, I'm gonna show you without the EFB. My pride demands that we get this done now. So, up to 30 feet. Try and regain visual contact. We don't want to fly into it backwards. And down there the container is. Okay. So, let's make a smooth approach at 30 feet. That's looking good. There's a container. Now, slowly get on top of it. And now just hold it steady. Yeah, there you can feel the weight. So now we grabbed it. Alright, let's check that I'm not talking nonsense. Here we are. That's our UAV container loaded. So we do have a couple of additional limitations now that we do have cargo on board. Most importantly, we gotta be careful that we don't exceed 120 knots and that we don't fly violent maneuvers. Those are what can actually break the hook. Alright, so let's go direct. Echo, Tango, Hotel, Bravo. Göteborg Army Field, direct 2, here we go. 042, 3 miles. So it's probably got to be just over there. Yeah, there it is already. Alright, so you do actually notice the weight of the additional cargo that you're carrying. And you can really feel how the plane becomes a little bit more sluggish with it. Right, just careful on the speed here. 115, we shouldn't exceed 120. And here we go. This just looks amazing, doesn't it? It looks really amazing if you ask me. Alright, so let's go right back in. We're gonna make it a traffic pattern here because I do believe we are in the flying in the wrong direction right now. So let's turn onto a right-hand downwind, maintain those 2,000 feet that we had, and make sure that the speed doesn't go above 120. You can see my flying immediately becomes a little bit more sluggish here with the cargo hanging below the craft, because that does really show in the flight dynamics. And also I want to maneuver as careful as possible. Okay, so down there it is. Let's remove a little bit of that power, down towards 2,000 feet. Speed 110 is looking awesome. there's our runway. Let's make up the traffic pattern. I'd say we want to go right over here. Okay, that's 120 knots. Let's not go any faster. Start the base turn. And this is looking really good now. 100 knots, still looking superb. Man, I'm getting tempted to do this with a Humvee and then actually put it on the ground at 100 knots. Something tells me I shouldn't do that. Otherwise, I'll be sitting on that seat at some point. Someone telling me that I should be 2-star Admiral by now. Alright, here we go. Established on the final. All the crosswind from the left there. Speed's looking good. Let's see that from the outside for a second. Obviously, we gotta keep it above the standard profile right now, since we are carrying some cargo beneath us. Remember, the cargo is hanging at about 30 feet, so if we keep everything 30 feet higher than standard, then we should be doing rather well. Now, there is a little helicopter landing field on the right-hand side there, and prior to that is a taxiway. That is where we will aim to vacate that runway. Remember, we can't do taxi, so we got to stay in the air over here, but I want to keep it above the taxiways nonetheless, at least for a little bit. Alright, here we go. So let's deliver our cargo to the hangars, and then we can land right next to it. Alright, so the hangars are right over there. Make sure that we don't get too quick over here. As you can see, even I, as a total helicopter noob, can fly this pretty nicely after about, yeah, an hour or so. Alright, so this is where we're gonna deliver our payload. 47 feet. Now we gotta be careful. The cargo is just 20 feet above the ground. Okay, stabilize it, and slowly but steadily down we go. Now we gotta make sure we don't put any dents into it. Okay, I think the cargo is gone. I did feel the plane take up a little bit of additional lift there. Yep, the cargo is gone. Here you can see it. So we could pick it up again. In order to do that, we'd have to climb higher than 100 feet, and then we could pick it up again at any point, even after we've flown away from it. So if I'm just going berserk now and leaving all those taxiways, etc., just in order to go back, then you will see that the cargo is still going to be there. See, down there it is, in front of the hangar. Here it is. Alright, so that much about that bit of theory. So I'd say we're gonna finish this video off by showing how precisely you can land this. And for this we're going to use the helipad that we had a little bit earlier, and we're going to make a straight in landing to that. Obviously not following any standard procedures here. But just flying a simple traffic pattern. Alright, so there's our helipad. Windsuck in front of it should give us roughly a headwind right now. Let's see, where is it? Yep, there it is. No, not really a headwind, is it? No. Wind seems to be mostly calm, actually. Alright, happy with that. In that case, we can just make it an approach over the taxiways. Man, these things become incredibly more difficult when you add just a little bit of wind into the equation. But okay, here we go. So the wind is 90 degrees to the right now. Just aiming to get right above the H, and then we're gonna turn it 90 degrees into the wind. Here we go. I really love that flight model. Can fly it so incredibly accurately. Where is that H? A little bit to the right and to the aft. So that's what we're aiming for. And here we are. Alright, so parking brake set. Then let's go ahead and shut it down again. Again, the manual has some good information on that. Alright, so flight controls neutral, parking brake is set, heating switches all off, APU start. Well, it's a bit of a pity that you just can't start the APU earlier. Okay, turning off the fuel pumps except the main pumps already. So, waiting for the starter, here it goes. Alright, APU generator on, main generators off. Engines down in ground idle. So, FADEC backup power is off and engines coming off. And now we gotta switch all the stuff off again that we turned on earlier. Where's the off switch for that one? Oh, here it is, other side. Right, transponder is coming off as well. The rotors are going to take a long time to run down, but that's normal. Alright, so that's most of the shutdown complete except for the beacon light, but as you can see the rotor takes really long to run down, so we're just going to give it that time. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and do a little bit of feedback over here. Now, first of all, my landing, yeah, not perfect, but it's a huge craft that we're dealing with. So, how do I like the Miltech CH47D Chinook? Honestly tell you, I'm not a helicopter pilot, but I do really appreciate this one. It's easy to fly, it's a lot of fun to fly, and even though I have a feeling like the engines aren't 100% accurate due to the parameters I mentioned earlier, I do really enjoy the flight model, and I do absolutely enjoy the performance that the Chinook has. Now, would I recommend it? Absolutely. It comes at a price of approximately 35 euros, and it does offer a lot of fun, especially with those missions, the scenery, and all that stuff that I haven't even shown you in this video, because, well, there are thousands of videos out there showing those, so very much recommended. Check out British Afgeek, he's probably going to show you a couple of very nice missions in the future as well, and who knows, I might do one at some point as well. In any case, I can really recommend it. It's a fun airplane to fly, and it can be flown really accurately, which is something that I do miss with quite a couple of helicopters in our simulator. So that's pretty much my final feedback here. Would I recommend it? Yes. Is it a 10 out of 10? Well, maybe not, but nonetheless it is still a good load of fun to fly. So with that, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. Hope that you enjoyed this one. If you did, then do be sure to let me know in the comments below, and be sure to leave a like for the video as well. If you're up for more, don't forget to subscribe, and if you really love what I'm doing, would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. As mentioned, if you're interested, you can head over to OrbX and grab the Chinook over there. Do use the link in the video description below. It doesn't give me any money, but it does give me statistics, and apparently those statistics do matter, they say over at OrbX. So, hey, if you want to help the channel, then why not? Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I see you all again on the next one, and in the meantime, enjoy whichever airplane you are currently flying, and with a bit of luck, enjoy flying the Chinook in a few hours, maybe? See ya!